On this week's show, we're joined by one of Australia's best-known Land Rover personalities, Geoff Lewis, to talk about Cooma for Land Rover's 75th and a special screening of his documentary, Road to Ruin. And now, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I'm the hand throttle to Steven's adaptive cruise control. I'm the cramped foot of podcasting, Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, this week we've got very special guest, Geoff Lewis from Seriously Series down there, down under in Australia. We'll talk to him about all of the fantastic things that he's got going on in his world. He's always a wonderful individual to chat with. But before that, an ongoing it's almost a segment. It is so a part of the things that we like to talk to. And that is Japanese K-cars with Land Rover body kits on them.
Yeah, it's just incredible. They just keep coming out with new ones.
Yeah. This one, I think, it's not my favorite. I think anybody who listens to the show, maybe who's even listened to just one episode, knows that my favorite one is the Little D.
It's definitely the best.
Without question, the best one. Classic Defender mod to your tiny Japanese K-car van. This one, though, a little different. This one called the Dafunder. I guess is it supposed to be like a Defender, but funner? It's more
definitely
fun
is the operative word here. And I think if you've got a Honda minivan or mini truck, this is the front end that you might put on your car. And it's a new style Defender front end body kit for your tiny Honda van.
Tiny Honda N van. And this I was not super familiar with the Honda N van before you told me that you had found this as you scour the internet on an almost daily basis. Looking for tiny Japanese cars with
people send me this stuff. They're like, check this out.
Sure they do. The Honda N van, which is just so tiny. I mean, it's just so tiny. It looks like something you would drive inside of a mall. It's just the littlest, cutest little car. Yeah, this body kit, the Dafunder, will take your N van and make it look kind of like a new Defender. I do like that there is even an option to have seat covers that look like the seats in the new Defender, with those sort of 3 bars, kind of, whatever futuristic-y looking Land Rover seats that are in the new Defender. This has got it all. I mean, this is an inclusive kit when it comes to really making your tiny van. It does look, it's got the little bumper, the little silver cover that goes on the bumper. And it has the, little silver piece underneath the front bumper, underneath the air dam. And it sort of has new Defender-y style headlamps. And I think, as you can imagine, my absolutely favorite part of this is that they've added the accent panel, the signature panel, to the side of the Honda.
Yeah, if you want a weird blind spot in your car, like a Defender,
just like a Defender,
yeah.
Now, what would be great is if you could get a tiny mini little spice rack to attach to the outside of this. I think that would really finish it off, so that you could get just a little tiny one that put it on there, and you'd be ready. You'd be ready to end
it. Makes
around.
A silly car even sillier. So if you want a silly car, talk to the good people that make the Dafunder, Dafunder, to get your own.
Dafunder. Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's not quite a little D, but if you, for whatever reason, if the little D isn't for you, maybe the Dafunder.
Now this is the second one that they've made. They also make the T-Fender, which is based on the Toyota Probox, which I think we talked about once before.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I don't hate these things. I really like them. I wish I could have them. I don't know what I would do with them, but that obviously doesn't matter. They're just for having. And
you would drive it, which is something 100%. That you don't do with your Freelander.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's exactly right. It is at least 100 times more. I can maybe tow the Freelander with this. You know? I mean, that. I'll get two of them strapped in the front, like the motorcycle chariot racing. Same thing, but a Freelander with two little.
That's such a wonderful sport.
It is a wonderful sport. It really looks like both the most fun and most dangerous thing all at the same time. It really is great.
It's
Just
amazing.
wonderful. Well, anyways, on to this afternoon's very special guest, a legendary member of the Land Rover online community, wonderful YouTube channel, a filmmaker, and all-around good guy, Geoff Lewis, to chat with us about meeting up at Cooma and everything else in his world. So looking forward to that. So let's throw some, maybe a mix of 90 weight and grape jelly in the old interview machine and dial up Geoff Lewis.
Here we go.
All right. Well, we're joined again by our very good friend and mega Australian Land Rover enthusiast, Geoff Lewis, from the Seriously Series YouTube channel, Instagram accounts, just generally out in the world. So, Geoff, thanks again for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you from all the way on the other side of the planet.
No worries, Steve. And Ike, thanks for having us back again. It's, great to be a part of this awesome podcast that's now over 100 episodes.
Yeah, that's right. We appreciate you sending in a little video there. It was certainly heartwarming to hear from everybody. And here we'll go into the next 100. But speaking of, big things coming up, we have the 75th anniversary of Land Rover happening. This is happening, of course, all over the world. One of the big places it's happening, though, is in the wonderful country of Australia at the Cooma. I think they're calling it the International Land Rover Festival, but certainly the Cooma Land Rover Festival. And some of the underpowered crew will be there. Ike and Linus and Jenna will be there, as well as I think Maddie's coming. Is Maddie going as well?
I believe she is. Yeah, they gave her time off down there at the museum. And so she is going to be coming. I don't know whether she'll be back. Like she might have to leave her in Australia.
Yeah. Well, there's a quarantine period. I think that made that turnaround and everything. It might not work. So
she might get bitten by a koala, emu, alligator, gator.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Sure.
But as part of that, Geoff, you're obviously going to be there at Cooma. So what's your plan for getting up there, and who else is coming with you from the Seriously Series team?
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting trip. I've got to travel from Western Australia, and Damon and I were talking about, we both want to be there. And this is sort of Damon's idea of going to Cooma, and it didn't take me much convincing for us to go there. And I said, well, if we're going to go there, why don't we take one of our Land Rovers? And I thought it's a bit too long a drive to drive it over from Western Australia. I know it's a bit of a cop-out. So I'm going to fly from Western Australia to Tasmania, and we're going to hop in Damon's 109 Series 3 utility, which has sadly not a proper six-cylinder in it, but has the Australian six-cylinder in it, the 202 GM. And we're going to drive across the state of Tasmania, hop on the ferry, go across the Bass Strait, drive across Victoria, and hopefully under its own steam, get to Cooma, where it'll be on display. So that's going to be a really, really fun, interesting trip. Damon has been working day and night, trying to fix all those oil leaks, which you can't fix them all, but just the major ones. And he's been having a little bit of a battle with the clutch system in it because they're slightly different due to the 202 six-cylinder conversion in it. So, it's going to be a great trip either way. And we're going to film it and obviously put it on our YouTube channel. So that vehicle will be on display. But we thought if we're going there, we might as well make a bit of a special thing out of it and do a special showing of our film Road to Ruin, which will be taking place at the local cinema.
That's the Cooma Cinema. Apparently there is one. And what better film to show during the festival? There's two. Well, there you go. So that's fantastic. So when is that happening, and how can people get to the Road to Ruin screening?
Well, we've orchestrated it with Justin, who's one of the architects of the event. And we're holding it on the Friday night. So,
right on.
So starting time's sort of 6 o'clock. We've said we'll show the film at 6 o'clock, but we know with Land Rover owners that never happens. It takes at least half an hour to figure out what vehicle you drive and all the rest. So sometime after 6, we will show the film, probably around about 6:30. Hopefully everyone enjoys it and doesn't run out the door, and we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. And then we're just finding a venue where we can have some slightly stronger beverages afterwards and a bit of nice food. So just make a nice evening of it all.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Oh, that'll be so cool.
Just to confirm, that is April 7th, Friday, April 7th. Is that correct?
Correct, Ike, and thank you for that. And tickets can be bought via Eventbrite and also via our Facebook page.
Awesome. Oh, man. I, unfortunately, as we were just talking about, I can't be there. Unfortunately, I have a series that's delivering right then, and that's not a good time to be away. We looked at satellite communication, everything, all of the possibilities, but it's not going to happen. And man, I would love to. That sounds like such a neat place. Where better to see that film than in Cooma at the International Land Rover Festival there? That sounds really fantastic. Hopefully everybody who's there, as about 25-ish% of our listeners are in Australia, according to the analytics. So that's 3 people. I think that's Damon and yourself. And
is your mum over here, Steve?
And I guess Dabo, maybe. I guess it's the 3 of you. So, so it's you guys. And so we appreciate it. I think when Ike and everybody is over there, our listenership in Australia will quadruple. Although I don't think any of them actually listen to the show. Certainly
it's
Linus
not true.
Doesn't listen.
It's not true.
No, it's not true. It's not true. They have Land Rover woes that they have to get through, and the Underpowered Hour does that each week.
I've been really impressed with the turnout on the Facebook Underpowered Hour group. There's so many neat folks on there from all over.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the post from the guy who is a designer at Jaguar Land Rover?
I did see that. It's funny because he says, so I listened to the show at work. He said, oh, geez, hopefully Jerry McGovern doesn't wander by while you're listening to it. That's like an instantly fireable offense, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, Jerry has decreed that anyone caught listening to the Underpowered Hour
or just talking to us.
Or just talking to us at all. Yeah. It's immediately fireable. But it's good. Jerry can't tell us apart. So in the case of, court battle or something, he can't decipher us. He thinks we're the same person. So
that's fine. He can't tell an old Range Rover from a new Range Rover either.
Poor Jerry. He gave us the Freelander. You can't,
Can't tell the new Defender from a Freelander either.
You fancy a Freelander. How many Freelanders are there over there, Jeff? That's a good, because in the
that
UK.
Is a good question.
Well, when I was speaking with Super Sidetrack, then we're going to come back around. I was talking to Nick Dimbleby the other day, and he said, as we were wrapping up, they go, before I go, I talked to Phil Bashel this morning. He's selling the oldest Freelander in existence.
Wow. That sounds like something you need.
That's what I said.
Now, Phil has some Freelanders that are prototypes. Is this a prototype?
This is a production. I think this is like, serial number, 4, I don't know, of the production Freelanders.
Now, Jeff, have you seen the prototype Freelander?
No, I haven't, Ike. I haven't.
Now, somehow they managed to make an uglier vehicle than the production vehicle.
Is that possible?
Yeah, it is actually. Now, they took a Ford Maestro van. That was the mule for the Freelander. So it's a Ford Maestro van with like Freelander running gear. It's horrible.
It really is. It's really terrible. It's got the weird little Freelander shifter sticking up through the. Phil has it, and we asked if we could drive it, and he said no, absolutely not. So,
I think that's because it doesn't.
I don't think it drives. No, but it's pretty cool. But how is the Freelander over there? Is it revered as it is here in North America?
Revered or reviled?
It's funny. Like any Land Rover, it's got its sort of cult following. They're incredibly cheap over here. So, a lot of people do, buy them. They are a bit more of a rarity getting around. Yeah, they have a lot of problems, as you know, Steve. Like a lot of problems.
Yeah. Oh, I still don't have mine. It's funny because Australia, what struck me every time I've been there is that the, what we call the El Camino here in the United States, which is essentially half car, half truck, all good times, is still a very popular car in Australia. The sort of utility car hybrid, which, the Freelander is much closer to a utility car hybrid than certainly anything we have here in North America. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was somewhat popular over there in that it's not a Ute, but it's like Ute-esque. It's like Ute adjacent, maybe.
That's fair. You can kind of make it into a Ute, can't you, Steve? Well, you can make it into anything, can't you?
If you squint enough, it can be anything you want. Yeah, that's right.
But look, a friend of mine actually had one, and we did a number of trails in it, and they're the most fun off-road going vehicle ever. And they look so helpless when you look at them initially, but the places that they will go, and they've got the downhill descent. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, they were, I believe, the originator of the hill descent control, or at least one of the first one of the first models that Land Rover put that in. And
that's worth noting because that is a technology that's found its way into a lot of other manufacturers. Like they use the same gear in G-Wagons and all kinds of different four-wheel drive trucks. So that is actually innovative and something I hadn't given the Freelander credit for.
Yeah, come on. I mean,
now have you got a Freelander Ike, or you're yet to get one?
No, they're so rare that I haven't been able to find one. They're just that rare.
It's a running one. Yeah. There's actually an account that we interact with quite frequently. Actually, he just posted some photos of his Freelander with our stickers on the bumper. It's got a tiny Ike on board now. It's free LR_adventures. And he actually quite frequently, rips around on trails and in the mud and stuff. We'll put that in the show notes as well, so you can go and follow him. But yeah, it's sort of surreal. It almost looks like a remote control car or something. You're not quite sure, like the scale or something isn't quite right as it's sort of bombing through there. But it looks quite capable. And, as Geoff, from listening to the show, my assistant and protege, Abigail, and I are working on she's a big Miata fan, and we're working on an off-road Miata for her, specifically for Instagram. I mean, there's no reason that should exist except that, it's we're going to put a lift
the Freelander was an off-road Miata.
Kind of is, and that was my point, is that the Freelander kind of is an off-road Miata already. It's sort of one you could just turn key. You're ready to go. So
someone's got to do it, Steve.
Yeah, now somebody's got to do it.
Speaking of like firsts, I recently learned that James Starley, the predecessor to the Rover company, so he was an inventor, and some of his technologies found their way into the Rover firm, including bicycle technology, chain drive technology. Also credited as being the inventor of the differential.
Oh,
did not know that.
Big call.
Isn't that big?
One.
That's big. So he started working on that stuff in the 1870s. I think 1878, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And he also built an electric car, 1888.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And Land Rover hasn't managed to get back around to that yet.
No, it's still like 2026 now, isn't it?
Still working on it. Yeah, 2026. How's the electric car infrastructure over there? Is it pretty reasonable? Would an electric Land Rover be well received in Australia?
Look, I think it would be. Particularly on the East Coast, which is a lot more populated. So there's a lot more infrastructure there. Everything probably from there over to Perth in Western Australia is probably a no-go zone. The biggest problem we have here is range and just the fact, Australia's got a very small population compared to the USA. So therefore there's just not as much infrastructure.
Not a lot in the middle.
Pretty much. And to be honest, that's where you want to go if you've got a Land Rover. You don't want to stick on the tarmac. You want to go off where no one else has been before. So maybe solar technology and some other means will catch up shortly.
Yeah.
And you can just pop it out on the side of the road, have a cup of tea or gourmet coffee, and off you go again.
Yeah, exactly. Even the last 5 years, solar has come so far that you think in another 5-10 years, it might be reasonable to have, something like a Land Rover that has a big flat roof, covered in a very high efficient solar panel where, you may be able to sort of park it up for half an hour and be ready to go for another couple 100 miles. And that's, in Australia where you've got big wide open spaces with lots of direct sunlight, that would work.
Even in California, Steve, that would work really well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One concept I've thought of is you obviously follow Jack Dobson and he's got his Ute, his 109-inch Ute. And I've always thought if you put a canopy on the back and you had solar panels on the top and then you had like gull wings that came up, you could really get quite a big surface area there. And with some highly efficient panels, you could probably recharge it relatively quickly.
Yeah, be pretty decent. Yeah, no, I have to say, it's funny, we were just talking to Jack earlier today, that Ute is like my favorite Australian Land Rover, I think, to date. It's the most Australian Land Rover that there is, maybe. It's really cool. And he's done a great job. When I was I was there visiting him last year sometime, it had just sort of, come out of whatever field or barn or wherever he'd happened to pond it and was looking, fairly derelict. And he's done a great, job of rebuilding the back and getting it running and stuff again. And now it seems like He's constantly driving. He's driving it more than any of his other cars. So it's a really. I know it's a favorite of his dad's.
Nice.
It's pretty awesome.
I think he's going to drive that to Cooma, Steve. So
Jeez.
That's what I hear.
I think he's allowed 3 days to get there. So
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, Ike and Linus and Jenna will be equipped with all of the recording and the video and the everything. So they'll be responsible for full-time news gathering while they're there. So I'll have, just like the rest of the audience, the virtual Cooma experience brought to you by Ike and Linus.
Maybe Ike and I can get your cardboard cutout and get a photo near Jack's Land Rover.
I think that'd be great. I think here in the United States, there's a thing that school children do called Flat Stanley. When you go on a family trip, you print out this little guy, and you got to hold it next to you at wherever you are in these things. So.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah,
I've never. This sounds
been under a rock, Ike.
Anyways, yeah, but maybe a flat Steve. We'll send you a little pocket-sized Steve that you can hold up next to things.
Well, that might work quite well for social media, Steve.
Yeah, there we go.
Steve, where is he?
We'll hand him out.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic.
We're planning to do a little Series 1 excursion on the way to Cooma. Just a little drive from Melbourne over to Cooma. So we'll see how it goes. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 Series 1, something like that. Going to do some trips up into the hills, and we'll see how many of us survive.
It feels like there ought to be a website dedicated to all of these different people coming from all of the different parts of Australia. It's a cannonball run kind of situation to see who gets there first, who gets there under their own power.
It's like a Mad World.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that movie.
Yeah, it's an amazing race kind of situation. Everyone starts in their own constituent cities and then races to Cooma in shitty old Land Rovers. Yeah,
they're all working on their crappy old Land Rovers right now.
Exactly. Just
trying to tie them together with baling wire, and
it's going to be. I think everyone's a bit rushed this time round because it's only been 5 years. They haven't got 10 years to work on it. So everyone's under the pump.
Snuck up on us.
Really snuck up.
Nobody planned that.
Yeah, that's right. For the 100 years, though, I'm going to be ready.
I think there was a minute where we were like, during the pandemic, they were like, are we going to have any events ever again?
Very true.
So many people used that as an excuse to just coast. They're like, but eventually,
I can't go out of my house. And now you had fairly strict regulations there, didn't you?
Yeah, in some parts of Australia we did. Out here in Kalgoorlie, no. The worst thing we had was, for some reason, there was no toilet paper. And everyone decided to buy rice. So we had heaps of toilet paper at home and heaps of rice, so we were all good. So that was probably about it.
You had no toilet paper and lots of rice? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that is not a good substitute for toilet paper.
They're not normal out here.
Yeah. Rice isn't. That's interesting.
So how is your Land Rover currently, Geoff?
My Land Rovers are good. Many of them are in a static state of rest, waiting for parts to obviously come.
Should I send you some?
So
what parts do you need?
My Land Rover Parenti, I'm waiting for the gearbox to come back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then
LT95 is it got the tapered roller bearings in your LT95?
That's the one.
Nice.
That's the one.
Nice.
Yeah. So that'll be great. And I can't wait to get that back and get it back on the road. That's just going to be awesome. My Series 3 88-inch that we spoke about last time, that's in Road to Ruin. I've had some real dramas with the motor there. It's been rebuilt twice and it just keeps burning oil. It burnt 20 litres of oil in 500 kilometres.
Oh, no.
That's too much.
That's more than usual.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to run on oil.
Well, the funny thing is from driving from Perth to Kalgoorlie, there's a few sort of sections that there's not a lot in between. And I always make sure I've got plenty of fuel, a little bit of water for me and the Land Rover. But I actually nearly ran out of oil because it was just consuming so much. So I've decided this time round I'm just stripping the motor down myself, which I have.
Yeah.
I found it had blown a cylinder head gasket, which was a composite cylinder head gasket. It blew it between 3 and 4, and then there was a little bit of airflow between 1 and 2 because I did a leak down test. So the plot thickens with that.
Has it got like a dish in the top of the block?
don't know.
Got a low spot?
Looks pretty straight to me, but I do wear glasses, Ike, so who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I'll get a straight edge on it and let you know.
Yeah.
So I can only really think, and everyone's been so great on our YouTube channel and that, suggesting what it could be. Could be everything from unicorn horn got in there and something else.
Yeah.
But there must be a crack either in the casting of the head, or there's something going on with the PCV valve. It's a lot of oil. A lot of oil.
That's a tremendous amount of oil.
It's like a diesel locomotive amount of oil at that point. That's Oh, good.
So I've sent the cylinder head off to get inspected, and I'm just having a break from that and getting stuck into my stage 1, actually, Steve. And
my favorite.
Yeah. So I've pulled the 4BD1 Isuzu engine out of it, and I'll overhaul that. And I've just pulled out the front axle assembly, and I'm just going to go through and double check all that and just keep the ball rolling with it.
It has its original stage 1 CV joints in the front axle there, or has it been converted to something else?
I believe so. The vehicle's actually all pretty original. The one thing awesome. I've got to do a bit of research on is someone's replaced the front prop shaft with one that looks like something out of a county, because the Series 3's like a 3-part prop shaft, isn't it? Or 2-part prop shaft. So I might have to source one of those to go in it.
A proper one, yeah. There's a good friend of Ike and I's in the Middle East has all the stage 1 parts. I think in the world have been.
Wow.
So anytime I need anything, it's got to come from Dubai.
So how many Land Rovers do you have, Geoff?
Let me think. Think about 7.
7. So of the 3 that you've mentioned so far, 2 have their engine out, 1 has a gearbox out. How many of these Land Rovers would you say are operational? No judging. No, that's all right. We all go through phases, and this is just a static phase. So I've got one Land Rover that's fully operational at the moment, and that's my Old Faithful Series 2. So that's just been keeping things running. I've had to do some pretty big drives in it because the Parenti hasn't been up and running. So it's been pretty hot over here. So I've been sweating quite a lot. And obviously it's a great way to lose weight. Just sit in your Land Rover and just sweat.
That's right.
You know?
Just go somewhere. You arrive 15 pounds lighter.
That's right.
It is.
That's right.
Good,
I feel like the Land Rovers, like in terms of reliability over production time, it's kind of something like this.
They peaked
totally
at the Series
agree.
2A. It peaked at the 2A. That's the best one that they ever did. Did you see, Geoff, that you can now, the Roamer Drive people through, I'm not sure, but a company in Australia is doing an overdrive now for the LT95s that I think is targeted at Range Rover owners, but no reason that it wouldn't work in a stage 1. Certainly the V8 Rover stage 1 could use a taller gear. There's that, fourth gear, you got room to go, but I
believe also there's a conversion to an NV4500 5-speed from the Isuzu. So you get a 5-speed transmission, much sturdier on the back of your Isuzu engine.
Wow.
And that Isuzu, that's a factory fitted Australian option for the stage 1? No, that came.
It isn't.
That came after.
Yeah. So the LT95 is the common one. So 4-speed. Right. It fits the back of the Isuzu motors. There's 2 versions. One with ball bearings and one with roller bearings. If you have one, you want the roller bearings, like Geoff is getting. And but there's a 5-speed conversion, I believe, that my friend Matthew has been helping work on. And it's a special bell housing that fits to the NV4500. NV4500, Geoff, if you're not familiar, is a light-duty truck transmission. And when I say light-duty, that's in the scope of industrial applications. So light-duty is still up to, I think, 20,000 pound GVW or thereabouts. So quite a bit sturdier.
Sturdy transmission.
Quite a bit sturdier than the original LT95, and there's a lot of aftermarket for it, and it has a lower first gear. So there's a few different versions. They were used in a lot of applications worldwide, but I think one version has like a 6.5 to 1 low range, so quite deep. And it's very commonly found in the Dodge trucks behind the Cummins 6-cylinder 5.9 liter turbo diesel, which is very similar in terms of its stroke and bore to the Isuzu engines. So the Isuzu made a 6-cylinder as well. And the Land Rover is the 4-cylinder version of that. that's fitted to Land Rovers. At any rate, that's neither here nor there, but might be a good swap for Parenti folks. I think it's kind of developed with the Parentis in mind.
You might be able to answer this question, Ike.
Sure.
So you've got the LT95, and that's got
Yes.
the needle roller bearings in it. You've then got the LT95A, which is the upgraded version with the tapered roller bearings. From your personal experience and all the research and the people that you've spoken to over the years, what do you think is the pros and cons between having needle roller bearings, tapered roller bearings in that configuration? Because it was that bad with the needle roller bearings, you would think at some point they'd try and recall just a few of them.
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage is obviously, when you're setting up tapered roller bearings, it's the end float is a lot easier to achieve than it is with the needle roller bearings, and it's a more conventional bearing in terms of those sorts of counter shaft applications. I think just in terms of industry, the transmission industry has gotten away from needle roller bearings. I don't know, sometime in the 60s for the most part. Tapered roller bearings are kind of the industry standard. So I think that coincides with that change. I would say Land Rover transmission technology really kind of maybe is a holdover from those 60s applications. So the LT95 first made an appearance in the Range Rover, and then it came into the Land Rover applications, the 101 forward control, all that stuff. And they just kept using it for maybe longer than they should, like the Rover V8, all that stuff. They either didn't want to or couldn't develop new transmissions that would be an improvement over those. The LT95 is used in the Parenti because I think it's sturdier than the LT77. It's a stronger transmission.
That's right.
So they put it behind the Isuzu engine because that's really all they had, which if you're using the Isuzu engine, why not, get a transmission that's more suitable?
Just buy in the whole thing.
Yeah, buy in the whole thing. I don't know. But that's what they had to use. And that was what, probably the stoutest of the transmissions that was available to them. So I can't fault them for that. But certainly nowadays, there's a lot better transmissions to use.
And the A series they're easier to work on.
And have you ever done the conversion before, Steve?
Never done the conversion. I'm lucky enough that my current one is a late enough model that it is an A series transmission. I'm not 100% sure that it's the original transmission from the car. There's some debate about that. As the car was left-hand drive when it left the factory. And was sent to the Middle East, where a lot of them are, because it has the upgraded carburetor package to be able to run on higher octane fuels in what was called the Persian territories in those days, and then came back to the UK, was converted to right-hand drive, and then converted back to left-hand drive when it was shipped over here. So it in fact it still has two driver's side steering arms. So it's a bit of a, some of that is in the process of being undone, and my swivel balls are in terrible shape. So thankfully the folks at Design Engineering make a complete replacement for those and make a shim kit to be able to use standard Series 3 steering arms, so that I don't have to have two driver's side steering arms and some of that. So that's on the list of things to do on the stage one, but. There's always something. The only non-running car I think I have right now, save the Freelander, which is perennially non-running, is the 80-inch. It runs. It's just taken apart right now. All of its body panels are off because they're in the process of having a new set of CK. Is
that actually happening?
Painted. It's happening. Well, the panels are off because I needed to take the car apart to get the steering box out to send it back to Land Rover, and so. New steering box is in, and it does have all of its body panels off, and they're in the process of trying to find time in the schedule to get it all unriveted and to send the new panels over to the paint shop and all that sort of business. I've been thinking along the lines of adding one of these Romer drive, because the actual LT95 overdrive kit is very hard to find. The one, especially for the stage one, is super hard to find. But it seems as though this Romer drive kit, is supposed to be pretty good, designed by the folks up in Canada for some folks in Australia, and now you can buy it from the UK. And they currently don't make a linkage for the stage one, but we could make that linkage very easily.
Sure.
And so thinking about potentially doing that and maybe working with them to try to see how that works, because the V8 stage 1 has plenty of power to be able to drive that extra gear. Would really benefit from that extra gear on the highways and things. So so thinking about maybe doing that, because it's, again, super hard to find that original stage 1 overdrive. The stage 1 was not a popular car.
No,
And
no.
they didn't, certainly not here in North America at all. They never came here. And, they were very popular in the Middle East, and there's a lot of parts there for them. But, just impossible to source. But there are a couple of forward controls that I've found with an overdrive in it. A lot of those had overdrives fitted, but nobody wants to just sell me their overdrive. They want to sell me the entire forward control, which I'd rather not. I'd rather not have an entirely not working forward control just for an overdrive.
Just for the overdrive.
Maybe one of these days. We'll see.
I guess my only concern is it's probably just because I don't know enough, but they've obviously got an adapter plate that fits onto the Roma drive unit itself. And the Roma drive unit's a very strong overdrive unit. However, the general kit that's recommended for your series Land Rover does stipulate that it's not really designed for the 6-cylinder models. So I wonder if they've actually beefed it up a little bit just to take that extra few horses and pit ponies of power from the V8.
Question. Yeah, that's a good question.
Also recommended for the 4BD1 in the Parenti, and obviously in the can handle the power or lack of power in the TD models. So that's probably my only concern. And you obviously can only use it when you're just coasting on the highway too, I guess.
Yeah. No hill climbing with that.
I can speak to that a little bit because I think that it's probably more than an adapter plate. And the reason I say that is because the input gear into the transfer case on the LT95 is quite a bit different than the input gear on the series Rover transmission.
Yep.
So it would have to have a new input gear in addition to obviously slightly different bolt pattern for adapting it to the transfer case. And the planetary gear set that's inside of the Romer drive, I believe, is from a 700R4, which is an American transmission. And that 700R4 is behind American V8s, which traditionally put out quite a bit more power than a Land Rover V8 by many times. Although you could argue the Rover V8 is an American
V8,
but of much smaller displament, of course, than the
deep-powered American V8.
Exactly. Detuned by half.
Yeah, detuned American
the
V8.
Land Rover muscle car, isn't it? That's what it's got, Steve. Exactly. The Land Rover muscle car.
I think when you look at a stage 1, that's exactly what you think. That's what everybody thinks. Look at that thing.
So I suspect the short answer is it's quite a bit different than the standard series.
Well, it's something we're gonna have to have the Romer Drive guys on at some point and talk about.
They're nice guys. Ray, I've spoke to him a number of times who developed it, and really nice fella. He started off working in the aero parts industry, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that when you actually look at the Roma Drive kit, a lot of the linkages and all the rest have come off aircraft, and he's sort of adapted it and all the rest. And he's a real polymath, a man of many, many talents. He's written a book about Land Rovers, and he does sailing, and he's a really interesting character.
Very interesting. All right, well, we're coming to the end of our time here, Geoff. Now, we wanted to do the Taste Your Rover, but didn't get time to mail you a kit of fluids to taste. Unfortunately, maybe we can do that live at Cooma. Maybe that's one of the things you can do.
I think that'd be good. I think we have to say this to the listeners. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
We may have to pick that up. In beautiful Cooma. Unfortunately, again, I can't be there. I wish I could. But I know you guys are going to have a wonderful time if you all arrive. No one dies on the way there. If everyone's Land Rover makes it there, given all of the different vintages that you're all driving from all of these different places, I think it will be a small miracle.
Oh, for sure. And look, it'd be great to catch up en route, Ike, in this, I guess, plethora of Series 1 Land Rovers. I'm sure we're going to be able to spot you because there should be an oil trail behind you, so we won't get lost trying to find you.
There will probably be an oil trail and then a very stationary line.
Having a temporary
Series 1 Land Rovers. But I'm hoping it'll be fine. We do have a support vehicle. It's a tray back with a crane. So, worst case scenario, it'll all work out.
Is the tray back Japanese-derived vehicle, or
It is not. It's a Land Rover Defender 130 Trayback.
purist to the core? Love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
If
That
I
is
was a
very
purist, I wouldn't be coming along at all because I don't believe in Defenders.
Well, you would. You get part way there and then be fixing the
Then you need to
series one.
get on the hook and throw you on the tray back.
But
No,
other
nothing-
people are coming and they believe it. So they're bringing that.
Nothing more Australian than arriving in your 80-inch Land Rover on the back of a 130-inch
Yeah.
Defender. I think that's really fantastic. It's not an adventure in Australia unless somebody has a tray back. Let's be honest.
Very true, Steve. Very.
Well, the 4-door Jimny gives me hope that there will one day be a tray back Jimny. So, well, Geoff, it has been an absolute pleasure. And man, it's been so good chatting with you. And again, I look forward to hearing the stories of rivalry from Cooma. I can't wait. We'll get you some laminated flat Steves over there. In the meantime, hope all the Land Rovers get into shape to get over there. One of these days, I'm sure we'll get Damon on the show. It's a little bit. It's feeling a little bit like my girlfriend lives in Canada sort of situation with Damon. He's never available, but that's all right. We believe he exists. We've seen him in the movies, so he does exist.
He does
I guess.
exist. He's not just a cardboard cutout, Steve.
Right.
Yeah,
He's just conveniently in the background there. He's completely CG. He's an AI. But anyways, Geoff, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us early in your morning, and we will look forward to hearing stories back from you guys at Cooma.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. And look, we'll catch up, no doubt, maybe on an episode later in the year.
Fantastic.
Hopefully, I'll see you soon, Geoff.
Likewise, Ike. I'm looking forward to it, mate. I'm looking
All right.
forward to it.
See you on the trail. Take care.
Catch you around.
All right. Well, again, always an absolute pleasure to chat
Man,
with.
always great
man.
to talk to him. Really looking forward to meeting up with him in Australia.
I can't wait for all of this Cooma content. We're going to call it virtual Cooma because I can't be there, but man, we're going to get everybody a flat Steve, and I can only imagine what terrible, terrible things you will do to that tiny laminated Steve. So we'll get the art department working on that.
It's going to be
right
like a
away.
voodoo doll. We're going to be poking holes in that thing.
We'll have a little stitched up plush Steve that you guys can bring with you. That'll be super weird.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, I'm in agony. You'll know why.
Yep. Well, make sure you get your flat Steve in time for Cooma or whatever Land Rover event you're celebrating this year. The 75th anniversary flat Steve edition. It's going to be really great. Just waiting for that cease and desist from Jerry McGovern. Can't wait. I am a Freelander owner. I feel like he owes me a little bit. I don't know. Maybe.
No.
I don't know.
No, you brought this on yourself.
It's true. I did. And you know what? I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. So, it's a little tiny orange content engine, that stupid thing. So, anyways, at that, we'll take our leave for today. We've got great guests coming up. Next week, we've got Mercedes coming in to talk about
I'm looking
Mercedes
forward to
the
that.
person, not the
Yeah,
car.
this is going to be good. About
about
the Ineos Grenadier.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Of course, Ike is the president of the North American Ineos Grenadier Club, and
It's true.
is a big fan. Big fan. I like Grenadiers, both the vehicles and the infantrymen, I guess, and I also like a sharper image world band radios. So I feel like that car's got everything. It's got everything I could ever.
It really
want.
does look like that. The
Oh, it
layout
sure
of the
does. All
interior.
switches and stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's something that you'd like see in the Sky Mall catalog on your way to Denver. You'd be like,
It's
oh,
true.
look at that, look at that thing. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Listen to the news from Israel. Just on my world band. Yeah. So, anyways, so I'm looking forward to that, seeing how the performance of that particular vehicle is, and all of that. And then it's time to rev up and get ready for Cooma and get ready for all that incredible content stuff. So, great stuff going on there. Great stuff going on the Underpowered Hour Facebook group. If you're not a member, well, we don't blame you, but you could stop in. Say hello.
Try it out.
Why not? Right? What's the worst thing that could happen? I mean,
Probably have all your bank accounts drained.
that's it. It's really a fishing. It's all a big fishing. This entire podcast, it's a very long con, 105 episode long con. This is where we finally spring into action with the Facebook group. So anyways, we've run out of time for this week's episode, but as always, Ike, it has been a pleasure, and we will talk to you next week.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Take care.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Barris, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Barris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.